Existential loneliness, why does it hurt and how can you make it better? It's a 9 like question request, so I'm going to give you everything I can from Evelyn Underhill and her 1911 work on mystical states of awareness, as well as a variety of books about formless and non-dual mysticism, and a framework based on Ken Wilber's integral theory so that you can hopefully resolve your existential loneliness and existential angst. I'm going to give you everything I can, and just as a sampler for where you might be heading towards by the end of this video, you could look like a quote from the book True Illumination from Evelyn Underhill. Remember, this is over 100 years old. This is one of the most definitive books on mystical consciousness. True illumination, like all real and vital experience, consists rather in the breathing of a certain atmosphere. How cryptic. How esoteric, to be breathing in an atmosphere. I would argue that atmosphere is an atmosphere of existential purpose and existential safety. Evelyn Underhill continues, the living at a certain level of consciousness. And then continues on further here. This is what we're doing for contemplation, and this is what we're doing a bit later on. I'm going to do as much as I possibly can for you. I've got so much that I could share with you on this theme. I'm going to make this accurate and precise and fundamentally a high-level conversation. For this conversation on existential loneliness, I will not be giving you suggestions about making friends, improving your romantic relationship, shifting your career path from one form to another, because my experience working with people privately, behind closed doors, who are in their midlife or even older, is that their outer world success and connection and relational embodiment of the literal people they're in connection with does not change the existential loneliness when you get to the final stages of inner awareness. Practically what I mean is that you could have the most loving and wonderful family imaginable. You could have really wonderful, loving career opportunities. You could feel great in your neighborhood. But if you haven't resolved the God-shaped hole and you don't yet know your divine soul spark, poetically said, if you don't know these two things, you'll still have that void. You'll still have that feeling of driftiness. You don't quite know your true face, and you don't quite know the true world. Two simultaneous challenges here. Again, at the higher levels of consciousness, the final 15-20% of personal self-development is those higher bands of consciousness, as Ken Wilber talks about in great detail in the book, The Religion of Tomorrow. This is a 700-page behemoth, really going into the detail about what you can expect when you get to the higher stages of subtle and causal awareness. This is what this video is about. The reason I don't recommend practical things is that practical things stop working at the higher levels. You need to enter into a contemplative state of consciousness, and only through your own inquiry will you find a sense of belonging in your true identity. All capitals. True identity and the true world as is, and maybe, spoiler alert, those two things start to blur together at a certain stage of perception. What we're looking at today is what Evelyn Underhill calls contemplation, and there are 3 different ways to do this. I'm going to ignore the middle stage. It's quite difficult to design, maybe a small micro rock hand, but we're going to ignore the middle one because it might be unpalatable to people. I'll give you the first one and the third one. What we're aiming towards here is contemplation in 2 particular forms. Contemplation, according to Evelyn Underhill, is, quote, the mystic's medium. It is an extreme form of withdrawal of attention from the external world and total dedication of the mind, which also, in various degrees and ways, conditions the creative activity of musician, painter, and poet. Wouldn't that be nice? Maybe you'd feel a bit existentially lonely if you had the poet's mind or the painter's perception. You'd feel more of a loving relationship with the world around you. I'll get to that in a moment. Releasing the faculty by which you can apprehend the good, the beautiful, and enter into communion with the real. And ultimately, final quote so I can put this book down. This is where this is all going to get you towards. Again, I'm trying to summarize years of study and hard research in just a short video on YouTube to give you something practical at the high levels of spiritual psychology. True contemplation. How do we know if we're doing a good job? Let's see what Evelyn has to say. Evelyn says that true contemplation, my friend, is, quote, as the mystics are constantly assuring us, must always be judged by its fruits. If it be genuine work, it has been done during the period of apparent passivity. Final sentence, the deeper self has escaped, has risen to freedom, and returns other than it was before. First written in 1911, one of the best books on mystical consciousness. But where does this leave us practically? Evelyn Underhill is framing out the atmosphere of the conversation, and there are two main lanes for you to try and figure out what's going on with your God-shaped hole and your lack of understanding about your true spiritual essence. You can try the path of nature mysticism and the path of formless or non-dual mysticism. I'm not recommending that third path of deity mysticism because many of the people who watch these videos may have been raised in a certain traditional religious environment, and their idea of God as a Christian deity or as an Islamic deity figure may be a little bit friction creating for them, and you don't need to swing all the way into a foreign religion if you were raised in the East to go to the West and vice versa and choose a variety of different deities to start worshipping. You don't need to do any of that. I'm avoiding deity mysticism for now. There are different categories and criteria within these mystical levels of consciousness. Let's focus on nature and formlessness. The nature mysticism path is my personal preference. For other people, it will be formless. The classic breakdown that I could ask you is, when you're trying to unwind, when you're trying to get a feeling of safety and calm in your body, would you rather go for a long stroll through a natural environment that you find beautiful, or would you rather cozy up inside with some candles and some music and go for a deep meditative experience? You'll likely have a preference one way or the other. Maybe you enjoy both of them. I enjoy both of them, but I'd much rather go out and be in nature than spend time in this library with the lights down low and spend an hour listening to frequencies and focusing on my breath. I can do it. I've enjoyed it before, but one is much more appealing to me than the other. Whichever one is more appealing to you, I want you to make a commitment for 6 months to really prioritize this exploration. If you're feeling existentially lonely, do not merely consider, I'm going for a walk as good mental health, or I'm going to meditate to look after my anxiety. Make it an epic spiritual quest. You are finding an answer to your existential loneliness by focusing your consciousness towards the peak, highest forms of human awareness through either the vehicle of nature or the vehicle of the non-dual formless inner awareness search. Got a few books to bring out specifically on the formless, non-dual, dualistic mysticism. In a moment, we're going to go into this stuff. Again, I'm trying to do a lot in just a very short video, so please do read the books that I'm recommending. Let's focus on nature mysticism first. Why will nature mysticism help you with your existential loneliness? Fundamentally, to be involved in nature, with capital letters, nature, you will be confronted with such a breathing, pulsating, high-charge, supportive energy if you truly know what you're looking at. Maybe not in the concrete jungle, maybe not in your local footpath, but it's still possible there. You might need to go out to somewhere a little bit more awe-inspiring. This could be low-grade awe. For me, for example, I live in the English countryside and I enjoy the rolling hills and the gentle landscapes and how the spring flowers change into the summer flowers and the sheep and the birds. I find that very awe-inspiring. Other people, they need the Grand Canyon or they need some kind of epic landscape and massive plains, massive mountains. That's fine. I don't need that personally. You might need something like that. The point is, if you are immersed in nature and you take the meditative mind, you take this question of, why do I feel existentially abandoned? Your true face is unknown to you. The true world is unknown to you. Why not start with the true world? Let's see if you can see behind the perception, behind the clouding, behind potentially even the trauma that's getting in your way of seeing a sunset. That means that you can't properly see the leaves. You can't properly feel the soil. Imagine you spent 6 months with a true level of meditation retreat level of intention, as if you were doing a 1-week meditation retreat, and when you show up for those meditations, you are really trying to show up, you're really trying to do a bit of a spiritual strengthening or spiritual searching. What if every single walk for 6 months in a row, when you're looking, you're feeling, you're looking with your heart, you're breathing it in, you are trying to form a relationship to the world around you as it actually is, as Evelyn Underhill said in that quote earlier, the real as it actually is without the clouding of perception. I can't guarantee results, but I can guarantee that the process of searching with true intention in the nature will help you to get something like a re-enchantment of the world. to bring back vitality into the outer world, to go from a numbing experience where your consciousness is collapsed in on yourself and you're worried and you're like, oh no, I'm existentially lonely, I feel depressed, I feel sad, what's the point of it all? Maybe I'm apathetic, maybe I'm like, I've been there. I spent many years there. I spent 12 years or so there from age 10 to my early 20s. I was in a very, very, very dark headspace. I couldn't see the beauty of a sunset. I couldn't see the beauty of a little robin. I couldn't see the beauty of my own physical form. To properly re-enchant the world and to go into nature consciousness and nature mysticism means to commit yourself to trying your hardest and then also relaxing, paradoxically, relaxing your softest to see what's already there. And you'll get glimpses, you'll get little peak experiences, quite literally a peak experience at how beautifully structured and beautifully interwoven this tapestry is. You will re-enchant the natural world and you will feel your place within the order of things. You'll feel it. You'll really feel it. For me, I couldn't imagine going very much time at all without immersing myself in nature. I love going for barefoot walks. I love spending time looking out over the overview, just 5-10 minutes away from my house. And if I haven't got that, I will enjoy just being by a big tall tree and sitting there and feeling, some might say it's a bit hippie, but feeling that energy of the tree. Again, we're in a mystical conversation. You've listened to me this long. It's probably not too abstract a thing to say, but there is literal energy from trees and plants and the natural landscape you're in, and you can feel buoyed up and supported and not existentially lonely if your existence is rooted in a re-enchanted natural environment. Let's move on to the opposite path, which is the formless mysticism, or arguably the non-dual mysticism. Wonderful book that I recommend you read, How to Attain Enlightenment. Excellent book, and I'm going to bring out a quote to frame out what we're doing here with the alternative pathway to resolving your question of the God-shaped wound. Quote from the book: "Everything can be reduced to two things, the subject and the object. All experience and interpretation of experience flows from this fundamental duality. Understand the nature of the subject and the objects and their relationship to each other, and you are free." It sounds kind of tempting, right? Self-inquiry is not theory and practice. You will not get this knowledge and then set out to apply it. Continuing a little bit further on, self-realization and enlightenment is not just self-knowledge. It is freedom from dependence on objects. Continuing now with a rapid quote to set the scene from Integral Meditation, this one by Ken Wilber as well. Again, just a few more sentences and I'll wrap it together. Take the breather and join me forward. What's the point of all this meditation practice? Conditional, traditional meditation of sitting in one place for a certain number of time, for a certain number of months in a row. What's going to happen? Why is this useful for my existential loneliness? I will tell you. Just hang on a moment. Quote from the book from Ken Wilber. "As your meditation practice continues to deepen, and you move from subtle state dreaming into the next higher stage state, that of the pure, dreamless, formless, causal realm, that shift in your state center of gravity continues, and as you enter the deep, dreamless state, a very tacit awareness will nonetheless still tend to be present, and you will realize, in a very delicate fashion, that once again, even though virtually nothing is present in that state, it is a dreamless, formless state, all capitals on the page. You are still you." That is the final crescendo moment of a true formless mysticism. To collapse the dualities between subject and object, maybe, if you want to follow this pathway, maybe because you had that relationship with nature to begin with, you can then see nature as out there and yourself as in here, but you have a few experiences where the lines are a bit blurred and you feel like you don't quite know where your legs end and the earth begins. You're like, oh, that's interesting. I'm not so defined from nature. I'm part of the ecosystem. I'm part of this wonderfully supported web of materialized consciousness, all of these different living things. And that could be the baseline. But then eventually, through formless mysticism practice, you will see your true face and the true world, and you will get into very particular, very subtle, very book-worthy conversations. Again, Religion of Tomorrow breaks down these concepts into chapter after chapter of very specific, I mean, you can see it there, hidden structures of consciousness, right there. And then distortions and delusions, the various levels and various stages, distortions of the gross and the subtle. I mean, honestly, if you want a book like this, do read a book like this. This book is tremendously powerful. I'd bring out random quotes and extracts, but they're going to make no sense on their own. You know what? I'll do it just so you understand that the wording of all of this. You know what? I'm not going to. Just keep it as a real moment. Bit of a strange moment in the video, but I wish I could talk about this. The reason I'm filming my self-integration school curriculum is I will get hours to be able to break down one chapter inside this book, and I'm currently working on that, whereas this is YouTube, so it's not even appropriate for it. I have given you a bit of a, led you on a little bit there. I'm not going to be able to read it for you. You have to read it for yourself. Point is, formless mysticism is very difficult to wrap in form. How ironic. The formless mystical state, which you can enter into from serious considered meditative practice of 1 or 2 hours per day for multiple years in a row, will help you with this question of existential loneliness. Why will it help you with the question of existential loneliness? Because you will see your true face, and you will see the distinctions and divisions divide between the I and the object. Which means that you'll then have a deeper connection to all of the people that you form relationships with. It happens almost like dominoes falling in cascade. If you understand your true essence, and you logically extend that if I have this true essence, then surely everyone that I encounter likewise has this true essence, suddenly clicks. The depth of the game suddenly clicks, the depth of the love and the connection, the meaning of it all, your place in the universe. It starts to make sense, because you've taken the time to see what you are, and by extension, you see what everyone else is. And you'll find people along the way, as your vibration raises up, who start to match you on this same frequency, to use the New Age language, that frequency. It seems nonsensical, but I will guarantee you that it will work. Many people will not take the advice I've given here. They will still go and try and find the next fulfilling career move. You will try and do something to your body that makes you feel healthier. You'll try and upgrade your romantic relationship. You'll do all of these things, and it will provide a different form of satisfaction. But I can guarantee that it will not give you the ultimate satisfaction of knowing what you are and filling the God-shaped wound with the only thing that the God-shaped wound can be filled by: God. And that word is the biggest question and the biggest statement that you need to resolve for yourself. That is the human story. That is the human question. You'll find the answers based on your preferences, based on your conditioning. I've avoided deity mysticism in this video because I know that there's a variety of people from different cultural backgrounds. I've tried to give the least culturally prescriptive answers. But you could go down deity mysticism. Maybe you return to the religion that you were born into and find it from a whole new mystical perspective. Maybe you try out a different religious structure and see if those deities awaken something inside of you. That is on you. But there is no easy way out of existential loneliness. For me personally, it took many years in a row of nature immersion and meditation, both combined together, as well as vigorous study, to have something like a feeling of purpose and love and safety in this world and this cosmos. I want you to experience that. It is not easy. If you're looking for support, maybe some people have given some top tips down in the comment section. Maybe you have some top tips for someone else. You can go check the comment section. You can check the link in the description. My Shadow Work Library course and community has over 100 members wrestling with these questions on a week-by-week basis in our Sunday seminars. It is high-level group coaching on all of these topics. We talk about this for 90 minutes together. Week on week, your questions, my answers. This is what we do inside of there. For now, it is a simple, under 20-minute YouTube video, real, one take, giving you the answers. Nature mysticism, formless non-dual mysticism. Take 6 months to go in both directions and really take it seriously. Because otherwise you will be plagued and haunted by this feeling of existential loneliness, and it will not get better from filling it with material things and literal attachments and relationships. You'll have to come back to it later. 10 years from now or 20 years from now, maybe, in your final years on your deathbed, it will come back if you don't resolve this. And I'd rather that you resolve this and feel the uplift and the support and the vitality and the love of that true face and true world and true connection. I hope I've spoken passionately enough, and I hope that my stumbly moment as well with Religion of Tomorrow is a bit of an inspiration point for you to pick up not only this book, but especially this book as well, Mysticism by Evelyn Underhill. If you don't want these books and you want to spend more time trying to fill the existential loneliness with another YouTube video, then guess what? I have one right over there on the screen for you. I mean, it's a good video, but it's not going to work. You can go watch it. Maybe go for a walk and listen to it at the same time. I'll see you over there.